Captain Morris Blake couldn't sleep. For 3 weeks since returning from Kepler Station, he had been thinking about the strange patterns in alien warfare. Something was wrong with the official story about why humans were banned from galactic conflicts. Morris walked through the corridors of Luna Base, Earth's main military research facility. Most people were asleep, but Morris knew someone who worked late hours just like he did. Dr. Jennifer Ross was a quantum archaeologist, someone who studied ancient digital records from across the galaxy. Morris found Jennifer in her lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing fragments of alien text and images. She looked up when he entered, pushing her glasses up her nose. "Morris, what brings you here at this hour?" Jennifer asked. "I need your help with something. Can you search for records of other species that were banned from galactic warfare?" Jennifer frowned. "That's an odd request. Why do you want to know?" Morris sat down across from her desk. "Something doesn't add up about humanity's restrictions. The aliens say it's standard protocol for new species, but their behavior suggests they're specifically afraid of how humans fight." "Afraid? What makes you think that?" Morris pulled out his tablet and showed Jennifer video clips from the recent battles. "Look at how they fight. It's like they're following rules that make no sense from a military perspective. They take turns attacking. They avoid targeting supply lines. They never try to completely defeat their enemies." Jennifer watched the clips with growing interest. "That is strange. It's almost ritualistic." "Exactly. And when human observers suggested basic tactical improvements, the aliens reacted with something close to panic." Morris leaned forward. "Jennifer, I think there might have been another species like us before, a species that was also banned from warfare." Jennifer was quiet for a moment, then turned to her computer. "I've been cataloging ancient galactic records for 5 years. If such a species existed, there might be traces in the old databases." She began typing commands, and the holographic displays around them changed to show search results. Most were empty or showed error messages. "This is odd," Jennifer said. "There are gaps in the historical records, large gaps around 50,000 years ago." "What kind of gaps?" "Missing data, corrupted files, records that reference things that no longer exist in the databases." Jennifer's fingers moved quickly across her keyboard. "It's like someone deliberately removed information from that time period." Morris felt his heart beating faster. "Can you recover any of it?" "Maybe. Human computer systems are more advanced than what the aliens were using 50,000 years ago. We might be able to reconstruct some of the deleted data." Jennifer worked for hours, while Morris waited. As the night wore on, fragments of ancient records began appearing on the screens around them. Most were too damaged to read, but some pieces were clear enough to understand. "Morris, look at this," Jennifer said, pointing to one of the displays. "Reference to a species called the Void Walkers. They were apparently banned from galactic warfare for the same reasons as humans." Morris, read the fragment over Jennifer's shoulder. The text was broken and incomplete, but he could make out phrases like tactical innovation and disruption of established protocols. "Keep looking," Morris said. "There has to be more." Jennifer continued working, and slowly more pieces of the puzzle emerged. The Void Walkers had been contacted by the ancient Galactic Confederation around 51,000 years ago. Like humans, they had been welcomed into galactic society but banned from military participation. "Here's something interesting," Jennifer said, highlighting a section of recovered text. "The Void Walkers were recruited as mercenaries during a war between two major galactic powers." "Recruited? But I thought they were banned. Apparently, the ban was lifted temporarily because the war was going badly for both sides. Jennifer pulled up more fragments. Morris, this is incredible. The Void Walkers completely changed how galactic warfare was conducted. The recovered records painted a picture that made Morris's blood run cold. The Void Walkers had introduced concepts that were completely foreign to other galactic species. They attacked supply lines instead of fighting honorable fleet battles. They used deception and surprise instead of announcing their intentions. They targeted enemy morale instead of just trying to destroy ships. Jennifer, these tactics, they're identical to standard human military doctrine. I know. It's like humans and Void Walkers learned to fight in exactly the same way. More fragments appeared on the screens. The Void Walkers had revolutionized galactic warfare so completely that conflicts that normally lasted centuries were ending in months. Species that had fought each other for thousands of years were suddenly surrendering rather than face Void Walker tactics. "Look at this section," Jennifer said, her voice barely above a whisper. The Void Walkers didn't just win battles. They won them so completely that their enemies lost the will to fight. Morris read the fragment. It described how the Void Walkers had defeated a coalition of 47 species in just 18 months. The victory was so overwhelming that the defeated species had begged for mercy. "What happened next?" Morris asked. Jennifer searched through more recovered data. "This is strange. After winning, the Void Walkers offered generous peace terms. They rebuilt their enemies' infrastructure and tried to integrate them as equals rather than subjects." That sounds familiar. It sounds like what humans would do. Jennifer pulled up more files. "Morris, the Void Walkers were exactly like humans. They fought to solve problems, not to gain glory. They tried to end conflicts as quickly and completely as possible." Morris felt a chill run down his spine. "Jennifer, what happened to the Void Walkers?" Jennifer's search results became darker. The recovered fragments told a story of growing fear among the other galactic species. The Void Walkers had made traditional warfare obsolete. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic civilization for millions of years was collapsing. "The other species formed a coalition," Jennifer said, reading from a badly damaged file. "Every species in the galaxy united against the Void Walkers." All of them. Why? Because the Void Walkers had changed the rules of the game so completely that the old way of life was ending. Jennifer's face went pale as she read more. "Morris, they didn't just defeat the Void Walkers in battle." "What do you mean?" Jennifer turned to face him, and Morris could see fear in her eyes. "They wiped them out completely. Every world, every colony, every trace of Void Walker civilization. Genocide on a galactic scale." The lab fell silent except for the humming of computers. Morris stared at the evidence scattered across the holographic displays. The Void Walkers had been eliminated not because they were evil or aggressive, but because they were too good at warfare. "Jennifer, if this is true, then humans are in the same position the Void Walkers were in 50,000 years ago." Jennifer's voice was shaking. "We're banned from galactic warfare not to protect others from us, but to protect the entire galactic civilization from being changed by our way of thinking." Morris thought about the recent battles with the Velox Consortium. He thought about how frustrated human observers had become watching aliens fight ineffectively. He thought about how quickly humans could end the war if they were allowed to participate. "We need to tell the others," Morris said. "Tell them what? That humanity is one tactical suggestion away from terrifying the entire galaxy?" Morris looked at the recovered records again. The Void Walkers had been peaceful, just like humans. They had tried to help, just like humans. They had approached warfare as a problem to be solved rather than a ritual to be performed, and for that, they had been completely destroyed. Jennifer, we need to be very careful about what we do with this information. Why? Morris pointed to the displays showing the Void Walker records. Because if the galaxy thinks humans are becoming too much like them, we might end up the same way they did. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked into the Galactic Confederation Council chambers with her head held high. Behind her followed Captain Amy Price, Colonel Beth Martinez, and Dr. Jennifer Ross. The massive room was filled with representatives from thousands of species, all watching the humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to fear. Supreme Chancellor Vorthak of the Hegemony sat at the center of the council. His massive form resembled a cross between a squid and a tree, with tentacles that moved nervously as Kate approached the speaking platform. "Admiral Sullivan," Vorthak said in his deep, rumbling voice, "you have requested this emergency session to discuss humanity's military restrictions. We are listening." Kate activated her holographic display, showing the assembled aliens the records they had recovered about the Void Walkers. A murmur of shock and fear rippled through the chamber. "We know the truth about the Void Walkers," Kate announced. "We know they were exactly like humans in their approach to warfare. And we know what you did to them." Vorthak's tentacles went rigid. Several alien delegates began speaking in worried voices to each other. Kate could see panic spreading through the chamber. "You speak of ancient history," Vorthak said carefully. "The Void Walkers were a dangerous species that threatened galactic peace." "No," Kate replied firmly. "They were a species that threatened galactic tradition. There's a difference." Amy stepped forward and activated another display showing current battle footage from the Velox War. "The Confederation has been fighting the Velox Consortium for 6 months now. Thousands of innocent aliens are dying every week. Human military analysis shows this war could be ended in days, not months." Colonel Martinez joined them at the platform. "We've prepared tactical solutions for the Velox conflict, simple strategies that would save lives and resources while achieving complete victory." The alien delegates began talking louder, their voices filled with alarm. Kate could see that many of them were genuinely afraid of what the humans might say next. "Silence," Vorthak commanded. The chamber went quiet. "Admiral Sullivan, you are treading in dangerous territory. The restrictions on human military participation are for the good of the galaxy." "Who's good?" Kate asked. "The good of the species dying in wars that could be prevented, or the good of those who profit from keeping conflicts long and predictable?" Dr. Ross activated her display, showing the patterns of galactic warfare over millions of years. "We've analyzed 10,000 years of Confederation conflicts. Wars last an average of 47 years. They end with negotiated settlements that restore the balance of power. Nothing ever really changes." "And that is how it should be," declared Ambassador Yelton of the Collective. "War maintains order. It allows species to prove their worth and settle disputes without destroying civilization." Kate felt anger building in her chest. "War isn't supposed to maintain anything. It's supposed to solve problems. When humans fight, we fight to fix what's wrong, not to play games." "Exactly," Vorthak's voice boomed through the chamber. "That is why you are dangerous. You treat warfare as a tool for change rather than a ritual for stability." The truth was finally in the open. Kate looked around the chamber at thousands of alien faces, seeing the fear in their eyes. They weren't afraid of human aggression or violence. They were afraid of human effectiveness. "You're terrified that we'll make your way of life obsolete," Kate said quietly. "Just like the Void Walkers did." Vorthak was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with ancient sadness. "The Void Walkers destroyed the balance that had maintained galactic peace for millions of years. In less than a century, they changed warfare so completely that our entire civilization was at risk. At risk of becoming better," Amy pointed out. "At risk of losing everything that made us who we were," Vorthak replied. "Honor, tradition. The careful balance of power that prevented any one species from dominating all others. The Void Walkers would have ended all of that." Kate understood now. The galaxy wasn't just afraid of human military ability. They were afraid of human problem-solving. Afraid that humans would fix things that the aliens preferred to leave broken. "So you killed them all," Kate said. "We preserved our way of life," Vorthak replied without shame. The chamber erupted in voices as delegates began arguing among themselves. Some seemed to agree with Vorthak, while others looked uncomfortable with his admission. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed as a Confederation military officer rushed to Vorthak's side. "Supreme Chancellor," the officer said breathlessly, "the Velox Consortium has launched a massive attack on Earth itself. They say they're eliminating the human threat before it can spread." Kate felt her blood turn to ice. "What?" The officer activated a communication display showing space around Earth. Velox ships were attacking human colonies and orbital stations. The message was clear. If the galaxy wouldn't eliminate humanity like they had the Void Walkers, the Velox would do it themselves. "They're broadcasting a message," the officer continued. "They say that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to survive, that the galaxy must choose between human thinking and galactic stability." Kate turned to Vorthak. "This is your fault. Your fear of progress has turned the Velox into exterminators." "Admiral Sullivan," Vorthak said urgently, "you must order your forces to retreat. Let the Confederation handle this." "Like you've been handling the war for the past 6 months?" Kate's voice was filled with anger. "My people are dying, and you want us to run away? If humanity fights back with full military capability, you will prove that the Velox are right about you being dangerous." Kate looked at the display showing Earth under attack. She thought about the billions of humans who had never asked to be part of galactic politics. She thought about human children who dreamed of exploring the stars, not fighting for their survival. "Beth," Kate said quietly, "send the order to all human fleets. We defend ourselves with everything we have." "Admiral, if we do that," Amy began. "If we do that, we show the galaxy exactly what they've been afraid of," Kate finished. "But we also save our species." The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. Human fleets, commanded by officers who had spent years studying alien warfare, demonstrated exactly why humanity had been banned from galactic conflicts. They used coordinated multi-vector attacks, adaptive tactics, and psychological warfare to completely dismantle the Velox invasion force. The galaxy watched in amazement and terror as humans didn't just defeat the Velox, they captured their command. Ships disrupted their supply networks, and forced the surrender of the entire consortium in less than 72 hours. When it was over, Kate stood before the Confederation Council again. This time the chamber was silent. "You wanted to know why we're banned from your wars," Kate said. "Now you know. It's not because we're too violent or too aggressive. It's because we're too good at ending them." Vorthak's tentacles drooped with resignation. "What do you want from us, Admiral?" Kate thought about the Void Walkers, about the choice the galaxy had made 50,000 years ago. She thought about humanity's future and the price of being too effective at solving problems. "We want a new role," Kate said finally. "Not as warriors, but as peacekeepers. When your ritualistic wars threaten innocent lives, you call us. We end the conflicts quickly and help everyone rebuild. And if we refuse?" Kate gestured to the displays still showing the wreckage of the Velox fleet. "Then you'll keep having wars that last decades instead of days, and eventually someone else will figure out what we know about ending them." The vote was close, but the Confederation Council agreed. Humanity would become the galaxy's emergency peacekeepers, called upon only when conflicts threatened to spiral beyond control. Years later, Kate stood in the graduation ceremony for the first class of the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy. Young humans from across Earth's colonies were learning not how to wage war, but how to prevent it. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humans had been banned from galactic war, not because they were too weak to participate, but because they were too strong at ending it. And now that strength would be used to protect the very civilization that had once feared them. Admiral Jake Morrison, now director of the Academy, joined Kate as they watched the new graduates. "Do you think we made the right choice?" he asked. Kate looked up at the stars, thinking about the Void Walkers and the price they had paid for being too good at solving problems. "We're still alive, Jake, and we're still making the galaxy a better place. Sometimes that's the best victory you can hope for." Captain Amy Price stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, looking at the most dangerous place in the galaxy. The galactic core was a swirling mass of stars, black holes, and ancient mysteries that most species avoided. But somewhere in that chaos was the eternal archive, and Amy needed answers. "Captain, we're receiving a signal from the archive," reported Lieutenant Tony Silva from the communications station. "They're granting us permission to approach." Amy had spent 3 months convincing the Nexari, the ancient keepers of galactic history, to meet with her. The Nexari were older than most civilizations and claimed to have observed the galaxy for millions of years. If anyone knew the complete truth about the Void Walkers, it would be them. Major Chris Davidson, Amy's tactical officer, looked nervous as their ship moved toward the archive. "Captain, are you sure about this? If the Confederation finds out, we're investigating the Void Walker records." "They won't find out," Amy said. "The Nexari space is neutral territory. Even the Confederation respects their independence." Dr. Jennifer Ross, who had joined the mission after her discoveries on Luna Base, was working at a computer station nearby. "The quantum signatures are incredible," she said. "The archive is older than human civilization by millions of years. The Eternal Archive looked like a giant crystal floating in space, surrounded by rings of smaller structures. As the discovery approached, Amy could see that the crystal was covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "Incoming transmission," Tony reported. "They want to beam someone aboard." "Let them," Amy said. A column of light appeared on the bridge, and when it faded, an alien unlike any Amy had ever seen stood before them. The Nexari looked like a tree made of silver and light, with branches that moved like arms and leaves that sparkled like stars. "Greetings, humans," the Nexari said in a voice that sounded like wind through metal. "I am Quindal, keeper of ancient records. You seek knowledge of the Void Walkers." "Yes," Amy said. "We've discovered fragments of their history, but we need to understand what really happened to them. Quindle's branches swayed slowly. Knowledge of the Void Walkers is dangerous, Captain Price. Are you certain you wish to know the truth? We have to know. Human lives may depend on it. Quindal was silent for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. Follow me. The Nexari transported Amy, Chris, and Jennifer to the archive. Inside, the walls were covered with flowing patterns of light that contained the memories of the galaxy. Quindal led them to a section that pulsed with dark energy. Here lie the records of the Void Walkers, Quindal said, and here lies the reason your species terrifies the Confederation. The Keeper touched the wall and images began flowing around them. Amy watched as the story of the Void Walkers unfolded in three-dimensional holograms. The Void Walkers were much like your species, Quindal explained. They evolved on a world where survival meant constant warfare against dangerous predators and harsh environments. Like humans, they learned to fight not for honor or glory, but for survival itself. The images showed Void Walker society. They looked similar to humans in some ways, but taller and thinner, with larger eyes adapted for low light. Their cities were practical rather than beautiful, designed for efficiency and protection. When the Confederation first contacted them, the Void Walkers were peaceful, Quindal continued. They had ended warfare on their own world through superior tactics and strategy. They believed that conflict was a problem to be solved, not a way of life to be celebrated. Chris leaned forward. That sounds exactly like human military philosophy. Indeed, the Confederation welcomed the Void Walkers and imposed the same restrictions they have placed on humanity. For many years, this arrangement worked well. The images changed to show a great war between two ancient galactic powers. Ships filled with different alien species fought massive battles that lasted for months. Then came the War of the Twin Suns, Quindal said. Two of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations began fighting over control of a star system rich in rare minerals. The war dragged on for decades, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. Jennifer watched as the battle scenes played out. The fighting looks just like what we observed with the Velox Consortium. Ritualistic, predictable, inefficient. Correct. Galactic warfare had evolved into a form of controlled competition. Species would fight until one side accumulated enough victories to claim superiority, then peace negotiations would begin. It was violent, but it maintained balance. The images showed desperate alien commanders calling for help. Both sides in the War of the Twin Suns began suffering terrible losses. In desperation, they violated galactic law and recruited the Void Walkers as mercenaries. Amy felt her stomach tighten. What happened? The Void Walkers ended the war in less than 2 years. The holographic display showed Void Walker ships moving in ways that seemed impossible. Instead of lining up for honorable battle, they attacked from multiple directions at once. Instead of targeting enemy warships, they destroyed supply lines and communication networks. Instead of fighting pitched battles, they used hit-and-run tactics that left their enemies confused and demoralized. The Void Walkers introduced concepts that were alien to galactic civilization, Quindal explained. Psychological warfare, total war doctrine, the complete destruction of an enemy's ability to fight. Chris watched in amazement as Void Walker forces dismantled enemy fleets with surgical precision. They didn't just win battles, they made it impossible for their enemies to continue fighting. Exactly. And when their enemies surrendered, the Void Walkers did something that shocked the galaxy even more. What? Amy asked. They offered generous peace terms. They helped rebuild what they had destroyed. They treated their defeated enemies as equals rather than subjects. Quindal's branches rustled with what might have been sadness. The Voidwalkers believed that the purpose of war was to solve problems, not to humiliate or control others. The images showed Voidwalker engineers working alongside former enemies to rebuild damaged worlds. Amy could see the fear in the eyes of other galactic species as they watched this display of efficiency and mercy. The rest of the galaxy realized that the Voidwalkers had made traditional warfare obsolete. Quindal continued. If conflicts could be resolved in months rather than decades, if wars could end with reconciliation rather than resentment, then the entire structure of galactic civilization would change. Jennifer understood immediately. The other species had built their cultures around the old way of fighting. Honor codes, military traditions, the balance of power maintained through controlled conflict. The Voidwalkers threatened all of that. Yes, they feared that Voidwalker thinking would spread to other species, that the galaxy would abandon millions of years of tradition in favor of efficient problem-solving. The images turned dark as Quindal showed the formation of the Great Coalition. Every species in the galaxy, including former enemies, united for a single purpose. They decided to eliminate the threat, Amy said quietly. The Voidwalkers never saw it coming. They had no reason to expect that helping to end a war would make them enemies of the entire galaxy. Quindal's voice became heavy with ancient sorrow. The Coalition attacked without warning, using overwhelming numbers to compensate for their tactical inferiority. The final images showed the destruction of Voidwalker worlds. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were reduced to ash. Ships that had revolutionized warfare were hunted down and destroyed. An entire species was erased from existence. The official records claim the Voidwalkers became aggressive and had to be stopped, Quindal said. But we Nexari remember the truth. They were eliminated not for what they did, but for what they represented. Amy felt cold understanding wash over her. And now, humans represent the same thing. Your species exhibits identical thinking patterns to the Voidwalkers. Your military observers have made suggestions that terrify Confederation commanders. Your very presence in galactic society is a reminder of what the galaxy lost when it chose tradition over progress. Chris looked at the images of destroyed Voidwalker worlds. Is that why we're banned from warfare? To prevent us from following the same path? The ban serves two purposes, Quindal replied. It prevents humans from demonstrating the same tactical superiority that doomed the Voidwalkers, and it prevents the galaxy from being forced to confront the fact that there might be a better way to resolve conflicts. Amy stared at the ancient records surrounding them. What happens if humans continue to push for military involvement? Quindal's branches went still. Then history may repeat itself, Captain Price, and the galaxy may once again choose to preserve its way of life by eliminating those who threaten to improve it. The massive white ship floated silently through space, its hull marked with large red crosses that could be seen from thousands of miles away. The UCS Sanctuary was the largest hospital ship in the Coalition fleet, stretching over 2 miles long, and carrying the most advanced medical equipment known to the galaxy. Dr. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the wide windows as his crew worked around him. Jake had been the ship's chief medical officer for 8 years. Now, he was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes that had seen too much suffering across the galaxy. Behind him, his team moved with practiced efficiency. Dr. Lisa Parker, his chief surgeon, was reviewing patient files on her tablet. Captain Ron Blake, their chief engineer, monitored the ship's systems from his station. Lieutenant Amy Foster handled communications, her headset crackling with messages from across Coalition space. The sanctuary carried over 3,000 patients from the recent battle at Proxima Station. Wounded soldiers from a dozen different species lay in the medical bays below. There were the reptilian Kratari with their thick scales torn by energy weapons, the insect-like Vespins with damaged wing membranes, and dozens of humans with various injuries. All of them were alive because of the sanctuary's medical team. Humans had been part of the Galactic Coalition for nearly 100 years now. When they first made contact with alien species, everyone expected humans to be great warriors or possess amazing psychic powers like in the old stories. Instead, they discovered that humans were just average in most ways. They were not as strong as the Kratari, not as fast as the feline Nexari, and definitely not as tough as the rock-like Gorons. But humans had one special talent that made them valuable to the Coalition. They were incredibly good at fixing things and healing others. While other species fought the wars, humans became the galaxy's doctors, engineers, and support staff. They built the medical ships, repaired the damaged equipment, and saved the lives of wounded soldiers. The other species respected them for this, but they also saw humans as weak and harmless. This was exactly how Jake liked it. He had no interest in glory or conquest. He just wanted to help people and save lives. The bridge's communication system buzzed with an incoming message. Amy pressed her earpiece and listened carefully before turning to Jake. Dr. Morrison, we're receiving a distress call from Kepler 442b. It's coming from the civilian population. Jake frowned. Kepler 442b was a border world, close to Zephyrian space. The Zephyrian Empire had been expanding aggressively for the past 5 years, conquering world after world with their superior technology and ruthless tactics. They were known for using biological weapons that could wipe out entire populations in days. "What's the situation?" Jake asked, moving closer to Amy's station. Amy's face was pale as she read the message. "A Zephyrian bioweapon has been released in their major cities. Thousands of people are infected and dying. The local medical facilities can't handle the crisis. They're requesting immediate emergency medical assistance." Lisa looked up from her tablet. "Dr. Morrison, that world is right on the front lines. Command has ordered all medical ships to stay in safe space until the situation stabilizes." Jake stared at the star map displayed on the main screen. A small red dot marked Kepler 442b's location, dangerously close to known Zephyrian positions. He knew the smart thing to do was follow orders and wait, but he also knew that waiting meant thousands of innocent people would die while politicians and generals argued about safety protocols. "How long would it take us to reach Kepler 442b?" he asked Ron. The engineer checked his calculations. "At maximum speed, about 18 hours. But, sir, we'd be entering a combat zone. The Zephyrians might still be in the area." Jake walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying from a horrible disease while he sat safely in Coalition space. This was not why he became a doctor. This was not why he joined the Coalition Medical Service. "Dr. Morrison," Lisa said quietly, "I know what you're thinking, but we have 3,000 patients on board. We can't risk their lives." Jake turned to face his senior staff. These people had served with him for years. They trusted his judgment, and he trusted theirs. But he also knew they would follow him wherever he decided to go, even into danger. "The sanctuary is clearly marked as a medical vessel," Jake said slowly. "We broadcast on all frequencies that we're a hospital ship. Even the Zephyrians respect the medical neutrality laws. We'll be safe." Ron shook his head. "Sir, with respect, the Zephyrians don't always follow the rules. They've attacked civilian targets before, but never a hospital ship," Jake replied. "They know that attacking medical vessels would turn the entire galaxy against them. It would be political suicide." Amy spoke up from her station. "Dr. Morrison, I'm receiving another message from Kepler 442b. The death toll is rising rapidly. They estimate they'll lose over 50,000 people in the next 2 days if they don't get help." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. 50,000 lives. That number was impossible to ignore. In his years as a doctor, he had saved thousands of people. But he had also lost many patients despite his best efforts. The thought of 50,000 people dying when he could help them was unbearable. "Send a message to Coalition Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we're responding to the emergency medical situation on Kepler 442b. Prepare the medical bays for incoming casualties and make sure our medical neutrality broadcasts are transmitting on all frequencies." Lisa sighed but nodded. "I'll prepare the surgical teams." Ron began plotting their course. Jumping to hyperspace in 10 minutes, Amy started broadcasting their medical status and peaceful intentions on every communication channel in the sector. As the sanctuary prepared to leave safe space, Jake felt a familiar mixture of fear and determination. He had made similar decisions before, choosing to help people despite the risks. It was what made him human, and it was what made humans valuable to the galaxy. They might not be the strongest or the fastest, but they cared about others in a way that many species found remarkable. The ship jumped into hyperspace, its white hull carrying hope toward a dying world. Jake had no way of knowing that this decision would change everything. He could not imagine that the Zephyrians were waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. He did not know that his act of mercy would trigger a response that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. All he knew was that people needed help, and he was going to provide it. That was what humans did. That was what made them special, even if the galaxy did not fully understand it yet. The journey to Kepler 442b would take 18 hours. It would be the last peaceful time any of them would have for a very long time. 24 hours passed faster than anyone expected. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched the countdown timer reach 0. Around Earth, 3,000 alien ships waited in perfect formation. Their weapons were charged, and their crews were ready for what they believed would be the shortest battle in galactic history. "Admiral Sullivan to all ships," came the voice over the communication system. "It's time to give our answer to the Empire." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew sat at their stations with calm expressions. Nobody looked scared anymore. During the past day, Admiral Sullivan had visited every ship in the human fleet and spoken privately with each crew. Whatever she had told them had changed their mood completely. "Captain Morrison," said Lieutenant Mary Collins from her communication station, "the alien flagship is requesting our response. Put them through," Jake ordered. The main screen flickered and showed Supreme Admiral Zethkar's scaled face. The alien commander looked exactly as confident as he had the day before. "Humans," Zethkar said in his cold voice, "your time has expired. What is your answer to the Empire's generous terms?" Admiral Sullivan's voice came through the ship's speakers, broadcasting to both the human fleet and the alien armada. Her tone was cheerful, almost friendly. "Admiral Zethkar, thank you for waiting so patiently. We've given your offer careful consideration, and I'm afraid humanity must respectfully decline," Zethkar's yellow eyes narrowed. You choose death over service? Oh, we're not choosing death, Sullivan replied. We're choosing something much more interesting. We look forward to the cultural exchange that follows. Jake could see confusion on the alien admiral's face. Cultural exchange? What did that mean? Even Jake didn't understand what Sullivan was talking about. Cultural exchange? Zethkar repeated. Human, you seem confused about your situation. There will be no exchange. There will only be your destruction. We'll see about that, Sullivan said. By the way, Admiral, do you like music? We thought we'd play something appropriate for the occasion. Before Zethkar could respond, the communication cut off. Immediately, the human fleet began broadcasting music on every frequency. Jake recognized the piece as the Blue Danube Waltz, a classical composition from Earth's past. Captain, said Lieutenant Collins, why are we playing music? Admiral, Sullivan said she has a sense of humor about these things, Jake replied. I'm starting to think she wasn't joking. On the screens around the bridge, Jake could see the alien fleet beginning to move. Their ships shifted into attack formation, weapons powering up and targeting systems locking onto the human vessels. 3,000 ships preparing to destroy 12. All ships, assume defensive formation around Earth, came Sullivan's voice. Remember, people, stick to the plan. Let them come to us. The human fleet moved into a tight cluster around their home, planet. To anyone watching, it looked like a desperate last stand. 12 small ships trying to protect their world against impossible odds. Jake checked his ship's status displays. Everything looked normal. The Liberty appeared to be a standard military vessel with basic weapons and shields. The alien sensors would read the same thing they had been reading for the past day. Primitive technology operated by a species that didn't understand what real warfare looked like. Captain Foster to all ships, came Amy's voice from the UES Resilience. I'm detecting interesting readings from the alien fleet. Their formation is exactly what we predicted. Captain Danny Brooks spoke from the UES Defiance. Confirmed. They're using the standard Imperial encirclement. Every ship positioned for maximum intimidation and firepower convergence. Perfect, Sullivan's voice replied. Dr. Hayes, are you ready on your end? Dr. Richard Hayes was monitoring the battle from Earth's command center deep below the planet's surface. His voice came through clearly. Admiral, all human colonies throughout the galaxy are standing by. The moment we begin the cascade, they'll start broadcasting our message to every enslaved world in Imperial space. Jake felt his eyebrows rise. Human colonies throughout the galaxy? When had humanity established colonies throughout the galaxy? How many secrets had Earth Command been keeping? Excellent, Sullivan said. All ships, prepare for Phase 1. Let them get nice and close. On the main screen, Jake could see the alien fleet moving closer to Earth. The massive ships approached, slowly, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had no reason to hurry. Where could 12 human ships possibly go? Captain, said Lieutenant Collins, I'm getting energy readings from the alien ships. They're charging their main weapons. How long until they're in optimal firing position? Jake asked. About 5 minutes, sir. Jake nodded. 5 minutes until the most important battle in human history began. He looked around his bridge one more time. His crew looked ready for whatever was about to happen. Captain Morrison came, Sullivan's voice privately through his personal communicator. Are you ready for the surprise? Admiral, I hope you know what you're doing, Jake replied quietly. Trust me, Captain. In about 10 minutes, the galaxy is going to be a very different place. The alien fleet continued its approach. Jake could see individual ships now, massive, vessels bristling with weapons. Each one was large enough to destroy his entire ship with a single shot. But something about the way they moved bothered him. They looked almost casual, like they were approaching a parade instead of a battle. "Captain," said Lieutenant Collins, "the aliens are broadcasting to us again." "Put it through." Zethkar's face appeared on the screen again. This time he looked annoyed rather than confident. "Humans, your defensive formation is pointless. You cannot protect your planet with 12 ships. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." "That's very kind of you," came Sullivan's reply, "but we're quite comfortable with our current arrangement. Besides, you seem to have miscounted our ships." "Miscounted?" Zethkar's head tilted sideways. "Human, we can see your entire fleet. 12 primitive vessels attempting to guard a single world." "Are you sure about that?" Sullivan asked. "You might want to check your sensors again." Jake watched Zethkar's face change as the alien admiral looked at something off-screen. Confusion replaced annoyance, and then confusion became concern. "What are you seeing, Admiral?" came another alien voice from the background. "Commander Veltar, run a deep scan of the entire system. Check everything beyond the orbit of this planet." The communication channel stayed open. Jake could hear alien voices talking rapidly in their own languages. The universal translator struggled to keep up, but he caught fragments like "impossible," "readings," and "how did we miss this?" Captain Amy Foster's voice came through the human fleet's private channel. "Admiral, they're starting to notice our hidden platforms. Should we proceed to Phase 2? "Not yet," Sullivan replied. "Let them get a little closer. I want them in perfect position before we spring the surprise." On his tactical display, Jake could see the alien ships were now less than 2 minutes from optimal firing range. Whatever Sullivan had planned, it needed to happen soon. 3,000 enemy vessels were about to open fire on 12 human ships, and Jake still didn't fully understand how humanity was supposed to survive the next few minutes. "All ships," came Sullivan's voice, "prepare for weapons reveal. On my mark, drop the disguises and show our guests what we really brought to this party." Jake felt his heart speed up. Whatever was about to happen, the waiting was almost over. Around Earth, the alien fleet moved into their final attack positions, confident that they were about to witness the destruction of another primitive species. They had no idea that they were actually moving into the most carefully prepared trap in human history.